Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're going to be taking a look at Sid Meier's Antietam, the sequel of Sid Meier's Gettysburg, a game that we've been playing a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Sid Meier's Antietam followed Gettysburg by 2 years. It came out in 1999 and has several enhancements from a gameplay perspective. Antietam is objectively a better game than Gettysburg. The game does a good job of communicating key information, like the amount of volume of fire that a unit's receiving, while also enhancing some of the graphics and the user interface a little bit, and just also giving you sort of a little bit more control. There's a wider variety of things like units and artillery. There's sharpshooters that are represented in the game. Overall, it's a better gameplay experience, but the game does lack some of the charm of Gettysburg from a couple of years before. It feels like there wasn't quite the same amount of attention to storytelling in Antietam as there was in Gettysburg. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to be playing this over the next couple of days. I'm going to play the campaign, which unfolds a little bit differently. I don't end up playing necessarily. I don't know if I'm going to play through the whole battle, but we're going to jump in here. This was taken from a live stream from just last night, and with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and step out, allow my live streamy self to step in, and let me know your thoughts, guys. Is this something you want to see more of? Is this something you enjoy? Or where do you want to go from here? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and step out, and I hope you guys enjoy. Now, I've talked a little bit about Sid Meier's Antietam in my Gettysburg series and how I was a little bit disappointed with the way that they managed Sid Meier's Antietam. One of the things that I really enjoyed with Sid Meier's Gettysburg was the way that they had these intros, these videos, these sort of cut scenes where the battle was explained to you as it was unfolding. And I think they could have still done that for Antietam. I think there's sort of a natural, ease to doing something like that over a 3-day battle that starts as a meeting engagement. But as I was thinking about it today, Antietam, they could have done it. If they had made the battle about the campaign, you could build the story of the Union uncovering Lee's plans, Lee being surprised by what's going on. The battles of South Mountain could sort of be your meeting engagement on day one. Depending on how you do there, you could even throw Harper's Ferry in there. Depending on how those fights go, it could influence how Antietam itself looks. And then even within Antietam, the Gettysburg campaign typically has 3 or 4 battles on the first day's fight. You could easily make 4 or 5 scenarios out of Antietam itself, plus maybe 2 scenarios or 1 scenario before it, 1 scenario after it. And if you've got 5 scenarios of the day or 4 scenarios of the day, and you add 2 more in, you're basically right back at the 6 or 7 battles that everybody fights in a campaign for Gettysburg. So I think they could have done it. And I was a little disappointed that they didn't do it. Let me show you what I mean by that. First off, this is obviously the menu screen of Sid Meier's Antietam. You can see here there's quite a bit of options. I don't think they had a battle history option in Gettysburg. I could be wrong, but I don't think they did. They have a tutorial option, a help option, which, okay. And then they've got a scenario list and a fight the battle list. So the scenario list, similar to Gettysburg, a list of scenarios that you can fight out. The main difference is Gettysburg's scenario list is a lot more inclusive. Right? There's over 20 scenarios in Gettysburg. In Antietam, there's, 5? And, I don't know, less than 20 for sure. It's definitely a much smaller list. The majority of them are the historical scenarios, so one is a randomize, you fight anywhere. Then you've got sort of the skirmish the day before the battle. And then you've got a list of, 12 actual battles, and then you've got 4 speculatives. So that's kind of disappointing. When you jump into the actual campaign option here, you've got more options, so that's kind of neat. So unlike Gettysburg, you actually have a couple of different variants. You can fight the historical battle, you can fight a low-intensity version, which is a little bit more beginner-friendly. You can fight a high-intensity version, which is pretty similar to the actual battle, but it differs a little bit. You can fight an aggressive McClellan variant, where the Union actually gets more soldiers at their disposal, assuming that he had committed Porter's 5th Corps, as well as one of Sumner's divisions, which I believe was not committed. And then you've got a Confederate offensive variant and a come out fighting variant, which is kind of more of a meeting engagement type deal. So there's a little bit more variety into how the battle itself plays out, but it's all done as just one giant scenario, right? So like if you play the Confederate offensive, it's a 12-hour scenario. If you play the Allied or the McClellan variant, it's 11 hours. If you play the historical battle, it's 11 hours. So, I mean, it's essentially one big scenario, which Gettysburg does have some of those. They've got a day 1 variant, they've got a day 2 attack in echelon, and then they've got a 3-day battle scenario, which was modded or added after the fact. But nonetheless, it doesn't feel as polished. It feels more like just an ordinary war game that I'd expect to find, and it feels like maybe some corners were cut. The game itself is arguably better. Actually, I don't even think it's arguably. It's clearly better. But from a presentation perspective, this game just feels like, there's something missing. With that being said, we're going to play Antietam as the Union. We're going to play the aggressive McClellan variant, so our hands will be less tied than they otherwise would. And, yeah, that's what we're going to do here. So I'll take my sip of coffee here at 10:50 at night, and we'll go ahead and jump in and play as the Union. Go ahead and click that button. And this is the extent of the intro here. You've got like this little, these are your objectives, General, and then it just goes around to literally every single objective on the map and says, you want to go here. And it wouldn't be a Civil War battle without Cemetery Hill. There is a Cemetery Hill just outside of Sharpsburg, which is the town where the Battle of Antietam was fought around. You can see some of these historical landmarks like the Dunker Church or the Sunken Road are worth 4 victory points because that's where the battle historically was fought over. And you've got some of these other objectives near the rear of the map, closer to the Potomac River,
This is your best brigade.
that are worth a little bit more.
Are good for long-range work.
You also, the game, so there's a few things worth calling out here. First off, let's pause the game. Did I not pause it? Pause. So the gameplay, or the game does have several additional or enhanced features. First off, one of the things that's kind of interesting is if you take a look at the artillery, there's a wider variety of artillery. So you've still got the short-barreled, smooth-bore Napoleons. You've got batteries of mixed guns, which are a little bit less effective because they have mixed calibers. And then you've got 3-inch ordnance rifles as one of the types of guns you can use. You've got 20-pound Parrots as some of the guns. Actually, that's a mixed battery. You've got 20-pound Parrots as the type of guns that you're supposed to be able to use. So from a gameplay perspective, it's not just rifled guns and smoothbore guns. There's a lot more variety into the batteries, which does influence their performance. And so in that sense, the game is a little bit more complex, a little bit deeper. Additionally to that, there are more unit varieties. So I believe these guys up here are Zouvois. Baxter's Fire Zouvois. So there's that. And I'm trying to think if the Iron Brigade, do they have their hats? I can't remember if they have their hats in Gettysburg. But there is a wider variety of uniforms in this game. The Confederates also, they definitely have sort of a unique look to them with a little bit more of a different varied types of units. You can see the Iron Brigade here definitely has their hats. So they've got that going for them as well. But yeah, so there's additional variety of units, there's additional variety of guns, there's additional information that's displayed when units are fighting in combat. So there's actually quite a bit more to this game than there was to the Gettysburg game itself. It just looks and feels a little bit different. Thanks for the follow, Cog Whistle. And as far as that's concerned, it's good from a gameplay perspective. I think it's a step up from a scenario design perspective and a campaign design perspective. I think it's a bit of a step down. Antietam was released 2 years after Sid Meier's Gettysburg. It was released in 1999. And as far as being able to run the game, it does have a tendency to crash, so hopefully we won't experience that. But I haven't had any issues. So I guess that's one plus, is this game does seem to run pretty well out of the box, even on a Windows 10 machine like I'm running. So that's good. I didn't have to install any patches. I just put the disk in the tray and it worked. So I know some of you were asking me how I got Gettysburg to work, and I probably will do a video on that. But with that being said, Antietam just seems to work. So I guess take that for what it is. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start moving some of our units around. So we have a bunch of different units all over the map here. We've got General Joseph Hooker's 1st Corps of the Army, which is over here on the left flank. And it is at least 2 divisions of it are currently available to us. He's the commander of I believe it's the 1st Corps over here on the left flank. On the just above them, I think Mansfield is the commander of the 11th Corps, or the 12th, is it 12th Corps? 12th Corps, up here in the north. These units are not yet under control, so they're on the map. You can see they're here. They're in column formation, but we don't have flags for them yet. So essentially the reinforcements that are coming up, they haven't been released to us yet. Meanwhile, the 2nd Corps under General Sumner, this is the corps that would eventually become under Hancock, but for the moment, it's under Bull Sumner, the 65-year-old dragoon officer who had good days like at Fair Oaks and very bad days like at Antietam, where essentially he got a whole division of his just literally wiped out to no purpose, inflicting no damage on the Confederates. They basically just got flanked and destroyed and went into combat. I think they were in like a column formation or something like that. It was not a good setup. So hopefully we'll do better than Sumner did. So we've got Sumner up there commanding the 2nd Corps. The 12th Corps is to the north. The 1st Corps is also on the map. In addition to that, we have the 9th Corps under General Burnside's, which is sort of here on the southern end. And some of these units are also not released to us yet. We've got Burnside's Bridge down here. It's called Robarch Bridge, but that would become known as Burnside Bridge. The middle bridge here, which sort of approaches sort of this road defensive line here, the Sunken Lane area. In the north, we've got the Dunker Church, which historically is where General Jackson was, or at least where his troops were. So the Confederate forces under Jackson are going to be in these wood lines here along the Dunker Church. They'll extend to the east, probably through this open area, into these orchards in here, where they'll then swing south through these roads and the sunken road to defend in front of Piper Farm. The line would likely then end there, and then there's another additional line back here on Cemetery Hill, and then the Confederates have some troops around these bridges and Otto Ridge over here in the south. The goal obviously has to be to drive all the way to the west end of the map and get to the Potomac Hill or Lee's Woods. I assume Lee's Woods where Lee's headquarters was, but I could be confused. The river up here is in fact the Potomac River. So to give a sense of this battlefield, the Confederates have their back to the Potomac River. That means that if we do rout them and drive them into the river, we may be able to defeat the Confederate Army in detail, destroy it, and win the war. One other key area or sort of thing to be aware of is over here in Nicodemus Heights, the Confederates have multiple artillery batteries. If we were just to try and advance on the Trouser Hill and the Dunker Church, all of these troops advancing south will be exposing their flank to Confederate artillery fire, so that's going to be something that we have to manage and be aware of as well. With that being said, I think the first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go ahead and get Sedgwick's division into play. So we do have Sedgwick and French's divisions from Sumner's Corps. So we're just going to get them moving immediately. I'm going to try and kind of overwhelm the Confederates in the north, so the 12th Corps will become available. And historically, the 2nd Corps also moved into this general vicinity. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move Sedgwick's division. He was the commander of the 6th Corps in Gettysburg, if you remember Sid Meier's Gettysburg. But in this game, he's commanding a division under General Sumner. So we're going to go ahead and move his division over in this direction into these woods, and we're going to go ahead and form them up. So you can see Sedgwick. You can see he's got 3 brigades, 2 that I formed up in double line, 1 in single line, and he will move over here as well. Also, you may notice General Oliver Howard, a competent brigade commander under General Sedgwick. He commands the best troops in the Union Army, according to the game anyway, according to the description. And it's the Philadelphia Brigade of Sedgwick's division. Howard would be the 11th Corps commander at Gettysburg that would get flanked and nearly lead the Union to disaster. But that's for another day because he's not there yet. Meanwhile, General William French is also commanding a division under Sumner. So we're going to go ahead and move him this way. And we're going to move the brigades of French out as well. So we'll go ahead and, again, maneuver these guys in maneuver column. And then we're going to go ahead and put some of them in battle line. That's a small brigade under Weber. Morris also has kind of a small brigade. Again, it seems like French has somewhat of a small division here. And Kimball will kind of go in the rear and form into battle line as well. So he has a 4 regiment. So Sumner, you can see here, his corps is forming up with 2 divisions in this wood line here. They're going to extend the flank of Hooker. So Hooker's corps is over here. Sumner's corps, or at least 2 divisions of it, are going to form up in this wood line over here. And then they're going to advance south. They'll either move directly into the Sunken Road area, or they will flank the Confederate forces near the Dunkirk Church and will smash the Confederates. At least that's the objective. Now, one other thing that this game also allows is it has the ability to have you gather artillery. And what do I mean by that? There's actually a gather button. So if I move Sumner over here and I hit this gather button, what that will do is that will gather all the artillery that reports directly into Sumner into one grand battery, which is kind of cool. I think it's supposed to represent kind of what happened with Longstreet, where he gathered a battery around him during the Battle of Antietam as well, but I could be wrong there. It's an interesting little feature where you can sort of form a battery up on yourself. Meanwhile, in the south here, we've got 1 division, it looks like, Sturgis, in the south near Burnside's Bridge. I don't think it's enough troops to really make a serious push, but we are going to go ahead and form some troops up here in battle line in front of Burnside's Bridge. Farrow's brigade is going to go in this way as well. And we'll form up here. The Confederates have a tendency to cross this bridge and move north to threaten the rest of our positions. So we'll go ahead and do what we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen. In addition to that, Buchanan's going to go ahead and form up over here on this high ground to the opposite of the middle bridge over here to stop any Confederates that might try and cross the middle bridge as well. So you've got 2 brigades down there. You've got 1 brigade under Buchanan up in the north. You've got Burnside's commander of the 9th Corps over here. Actually, maybe we should form a massive artillery if we even... Apparently no guns can gather. Scammon is a division commander. Cox is I guess he's a corps commander of the 9th Corps. The 9th Corps was weird. There was I think it was technically the 9th and the 11th. And they were both as sort of formed up as a wing. I don't know, it was weird. These guns... Actually quite a few guns over. Let's do this. What's your line of sight on top of that hill? Not actually that great. Mansfield, your troops aren't here yet. Your guns might be. Yeah, they are. So we're going to go ahead and form Mansfield's guns up here to support the flank, sort of the area where these guys are all going to be moving. Some of these guys are going to be moving. We'll go ahead and have them unlimber as they get there. Right. So Mansfield's going to gather a grand battery for himself. Sumner is also going to gather a grand battery there for himself. And some of these other guns, I don't really know who they belong to. They're going to go ahead and form up over here near the middle bridge. So if the Confederates make a push that way, they won't be able to do anything. Go ahead and move Hazlitt's battery. Good old Gettysburg Hazlitt. Just sort of getting my initial orders in place here. Those guns are all going to move down there. It doesn't look like we have any artillery to support Burnside in the south yet, so we may move some of those guns south. But I think a lot of guns are going to come available, so that's kind of our initial orders. Mansfield's corps will probably come available here very shortly. In addition to that, we're also going to go ahead and deploy Seymour's brigade. So he fought in the West Woods the day before. We're going to deploy him here. I think we're going to deploy Gibbon to his left. He's currently forming up for a double line, but we're going to go ahead and extend him that way. Uria, or however, whatever his name is going to form up over here. That way we're going to have kind of one coherent line. I'm not going to go right onto the offensive with Hooker. I'm actually going to kind of form up and wait for a little bit. And I'm also going to go ahead and deploy Patrick's brigade here toward Nicodemus Heights. Also going to move in Hoffman's brigade. So we're going to move 2 brigades over to Nicodemus Heights to try and deal with the Confederate artillery over that way. And those are going to be a Doubleday's division. Gibbon is also in Doubleday's division, but he's not going to form there. Meanwhile, these guys are going to move forward. And Hooker's going to form a massed battery in this wood. Make sure all these guys on limber when they're on. Trying to see what the elevation looks like. Like them to be in an area that they can fire on both Nicodemus Heights and support against the Confederate infantry, but that seems unlikely. Just have to call on that artillery from over there. I think that's going to do it for our initial moves. A couple of brigades in reserve. We'll have a couple of brigades moving out toward Nicodemus Heights. Roughly a division attack on Nicodemus Heights. And then the rest of these troops sort of forming up here until more troops are released. 16th Pennsylvania, rather than skirmish lines, going to be added to Seymour's brigade. We're actually going to double line Seymour. And there you go. So the cornfield might give some advantage as well. But I don't want to rush into anything here, frankly. I want to give our troops time to get into position. I don't want to piecemeal it. I want to try and overwhelm the Confederates. So a preliminary attack on Nicodemus Heights, and then Hooker will move forward once Mansfield and Sumner make it over here. And ideally, then we can make a 3-corps attack on the Confederate position. Right now, we have 24,000 soldiers, 1,800 artillery. The Confederates will have about 30,000, somewhere between 30 and 38,000 by the time the battle ends. So we've already got a substantial force on the field. I think we'll end up having a little over 60,000, maybe 70,000 soldiers before the battle's over. But some of those don't come on the field till quite late. So with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so troops are moving into position. I made a few minor changes from what my original orders were. And here we go. You can see here Confederate soldiers are moving forward, actually. Or no, they're moving back. It looks like they're falling back toward the objectives. They're not going to contest us in the Miller cornfield. One other thing this game does that's different than Gettysburg. You can see here you've got this arrow that represents sort of incoming fire. The game does also give you like a score of the incoming firepower against you. So you can see here this has like a number 6 or a number 7, which represents the amount of incoming fire here that's causing this morale bar to move up. As we kind of saw in Gettysburg, there's a morale bar, and that can route or unroute, and that's sort of one way that you can kind of keep track of that. I'm going to try and overcome the rebel batteries on Nicodemus Heights with 2 brigades, but we'll see if it's sufficient. Meanwhile, these guns here under Hooker are kind of coming in here to provide, hopefully, very strong positions here. I can't really see what the line of sight is here. Actually, a pretty shitty line of sight, actually. Can they see left? All right, so they can probably see the guns on Nicodemus Heights, which are going to be the first things we need to do something about. Did see something about Phillips having a regiment routed here. Which is kind of concerning that would have happened already. There's Gibbon, there's Phelps. You can see here our guns are getting underway. They're going to be focusing on the guns here in Nicodemus Heights, but that's fine because that's what I'm focusing on until I can get them, you know, clear them out. Alright, so Gibbon's coming up. Let's see here. It said something about troops coming up on the lower bridge. Not quite sure where those troops came up. One of Hoffman's regiments advancing on Nicodemus Heights was routed. As you can see, artillery is a little bit stronger too. It has more capabilities to rout infantry. Hoffman, however, is a little bit of the diversion. Patrick's brigade is sort of the real killer of the artillery. At least that's the objective here, because they're moving through the woods, so they'll have cover. Meanwhile, you'll see Hoffman's men, so the 56th Pennsylvania, moving through the open, and also having their flank in the air a little bit. We got a bunch of batteries and brigades coming near Smoketown, which we'll take a look at here. Well, assuming that's Manfield's troops. Yep, so Manfield's troops. Meanwhile, Sumner's soldiers are already getting into position here, so we'll be ready to move here shortly. A whole bunch of reinforcements coming up. So a bunch of our guns are already shooting at the rebel guns. Well, you can see these rebel guns are packing up and going home. Some of them, anyway. Looks like there's going to be some enemy cavalry that may unlock here. The enemy is deploying some infantry over this way as well to defend the heights. Quite a few troops are headed that way, actually. Alright, let's move.
Reporting, General.
Crawford's brigade in. Gordon's brigade will go over here. Williams, the division commander, will have his troops in a long line. Meanwhile, Thindle will also be available over here. We're going to put him in a little bit of a reserve position. Goodfitch. Alright, so there you go. We've captured Nicodemus Heights. Christian's going to move his brigade over here. Holy crap, they're moving a lot of troops over to Nicodemus Heights. Now you can also see, if we zoom in here, you can see here the firepower coming in from these different regiments. So this regiment is putting over 100 firepower in on these charging rebels. But once they get in melee, could be, you know, it's going to be a little bit more of an even fight.
Sir, reinforcements are coming up.
I don't know why the unit that wasn't charged was retreating. Looks like this cavalry is in reserve mode. Sumner is getting into position. Is a commander.
Reporting, General.
Yeah. All right. So a whole bunch of Confederate officers are unlocking, I believe.
Reporting, General.
That's what the reporting general is basically trying to tell us.
Reporting, General.
Sumner, meanwhile, is almost in position. Mansfield, why don't you gather your artillery up here? You have a little bit better line of sight. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this first part of the episode looking at Sid Meier's Antietam, the sequel to the 1997 game Sid Meier's Gettysburg. As you can see here, this is a massive battle that we're going to have to command everything from. We've taken Nicodemia's Heights. The fight is just underway, but we've sort of secured our lodgment on the Confederate left flank and hopefully removed some of that artillery as a threat to our forces. We'll see how the battle plays out from here. I hope you guys are enjoying the beginning of this video. I know it's a little bit of a slow start. There was a lot of talking about sort of how this game is different than the previous one, but in our next video we will get to work trying to fight the Battle of Antietam in earnest. Until next time, however, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.